Have you ever watched a YouTuber or streamer pull off some of the craziest plays in Bedwars and wonder to yourself, how can one ever get that good at Bedwars? Well, today, I will be teaching you all the tips and tricks I know for winning Bedwars. But before we begin, I want to quickly say that according to my incredible math abilities, I have found that less than 1% of my viewers are subscribed. This video took a while to put together, so it would be most appreciated if you did, and you can always unsubscribe. Now with that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Enjoy! There are certain Minecraft basics that you need to learn in order to do well in Bedwars. Some basics are easy, while others are a little more difficult to figure out. I'll start with the pricier requirement, which is decent FPS. Getting at least 60 FPS is needed to accurately aim. Anything less makes it very difficult to do almost anything in Bedwars. I used to play Bedwars with anywhere between 45 to maybe 60 FPS with my old computer, but once I upgraded, the game felt so much better and I felt that I could play the game at my full potential. Luckily, getting a computer that runs Minecraft at over 60 FPS isn't as hard as it used to be. Minecraft is a CPU-bound game, so you'll want to get a decent processor. Nowadays, even the cheaper Intel Pentiums and AMD Athlons can run Minecraft at 60 FPS, though I wouldn't exactly recommend them unless you were on a very strict budget. But even then, I would say just save up until you can afford an Intel Core processor or AMD Ryzen processor. Some examples include the i3-12100F, the i3-13100F, the Ryzen 5 5500, the Ryzen 5 5600, or the Ryzen 5 5600G if you can't afford a graphics card. Okay, now that the money requirement is out of the way, let's look at the other necessities. Let's start with speed bridging. Speed bridging is a skill that is 100% necessary because if you can't, forget about getting to places before your enemy. Most players nowadays know how to speed bridge and even know how to jitter bridge, breezely bridge, god bridge, moonwalk, etc. So normal bridging just won't cut it anymore. You can practice your speed bridging in housing, single player worlds, the Bedwars practice NPC, or the server as well, or really anywhere that you can build. Hotkeying is another very important mechanic in not only Bedwars, but in most other aspects of Minecraft. In Bedwars, it's important to be able to switch between your weapons, blocks, tools, fireballs, etc. as quickly as possible. For example, if you want to block clutch, you need to be able to switch to your blocks as quickly as possible, or you might just end up in the void. Now this one may seem really basic, but looking around and or paying attention is also very important because if you don't, some dude will probably walk up and break your bed while you are turned around. You must keep a constant watch in all directions to figure out where you are being rushed from, where all the other players are around the map, which direction they are going, whether someone is going to the middle or not, etc. In doing so, you can accurately make decisions about where you want to go and which players you think would be best to attack and or defend against. Now I'm probably going to get some questionable looks for this one, but believe it or not, I think your texture pack can impact your performance. This could just be me, but I have certain texture packs that are just plain cursed, and others that I do absolutely amazing with. Of course, this is personal preference, so just look around YouTube for texture packs that you may like and try them out. Once you find the perfect texture pack, stick with it until you find another pack that you feel just as comfortable with. For the start of the game, you want to try to get a stack of blocks, but if you get rushed a bit early, 48 blocks should be fine. For maps like Lighthouse, I don't recommend doing the 32 block rush. This is because it's very easy for your opponent to stop you since you don't have enough blocks to fight back. Plus, most Bedwars players have actual eyes these days. It isn't 2017 anymore, sorry. Anyhow, blocks are everything. If you have a hard time winning raw PvP battles, use your blocks to your advantage. They can be used to stop your opponent's momentum, to escape, to block certain paths that may be disadvantageous to you, etc. When it comes to your gold, you have two choices. Either you can use it on buying wood for your bed defense, or you can save it for later in the game for emergencies, golden apples, or iron armor. I personally would recommend saving your gold for later because of a philosophy that I follow. If you can't die, you can't lose. It doesn't make sense to buy wood because if you are winning your battles, what's the point in a bed defense? If you have ever watched any of my Bedwars videos, you probably noticed that I just place a layer of wool and it works perfectly fine. So save that gold, and I recommend going for iron armor since it's quite common to see someone else in the game with iron armor as well. You want to be able to match your opponent in gear, or to have better gear than them in order to win your fights. It's almost guaranteed. And even if your opponent is too good to beat in raw PvP, it still doesn't really make sense to buy wood because that opponent will probably end up breaking your bed anyways, whether he's going through your one layer of wool or your one layer of wood. You have a better chance of survival and winning if you go for iron armor, golden apples, TNT, etc., as long as it isn't the two commonly banished items of Bedwars, knockback sticks and bows. I would only recommend wood for players who are confident in their PvP abilities and just want to be able to avoid in time to save their bed from a random Steve who decided to cross map. For your first diamond gen rush, you want to go in the direction that you are being attacked/rushed from. You can do this by looking at the movement of players around the map. It's best to do this because you don't want to be attacked by two teams at once. If you go to the right and you get rushed by the team on the left, you will end up trying to defend yourself from two teams in both directions. Nowhere to run, very little chance to escape and live, and forget about saving your bed. If you rush the correct direction, you can start by getting the usual 3 to 4 diamonds and spending them on Prot 1, Minor Fatigue Trap, and if you really want, Heal Pool. I personally prefer spending diamonds on these upgrades first because I like knowing when my bed is about to be broken. However, you can buy sharpness if you just want to kill people and ignore your bed. And from there, you should be able to win most of your fights. In every single one of the games you play, you will always find yourself in a fight, whether it's on an island, on a bridge, or even in the sky, obviously. And for all these fights, you will need to use different strategies in order to win. Unfortunately, a strategy that works in an island fight might not work for bridge fights, so you will need to be able to adapt to different Bedwars environments. But here I am going to list one strategy for each Bedwars environment that should work. These 3 environments are island fights, bridge fights, and hard to reach fights. Also, before I begin, I want to mention that I can't guarantee that you will immediately do amazing with these strategies. Nowadays, Bedwars players have really learned how to do counter-offensive attacks, and it can take lots of practice and perfection in order for these strategies to truly be effective. I recommend practicing your fighting in these different environments on servers like Bedwars Practice. If you aren't great at PvP and you had to fight someone on an island, the best way to get an advantage is to use the island itself to your advantage. When I say this, you want to try to use the geography of the island to try to hide, get more crits, get the height advantage to kill your opponent's momentum, etc. And to add to this, use your blocks to your advantage as well. If you have ever watched big Bedwars YouTubers like Semi-Green or Purple, you may have seen that they use their blocks to stop their enemy's momentum or to get them stuck in a block, and that can give them a huge advantage in the fight. Well, I recommend doing the exact same thing. You can use your blocks to block off the only walkways from their base, to build up and get away from an enemy when needed, etc. But all of this does require a little bit of game sense, and when I say this, I mean knowing the map well enough to even be capable of using the island's geography to your advantage. I will talk about game sense a little later. Bridge fights are a little more difficult to win since you now have to worry about death from both the Void and your opponent. Now, winning bridge fights is more focused on getting the better hits. When I say this, I mean getting into a position that allows you to easily hit your opponent, but at the same time making it more difficult for your opponent to hit you. An example of this would be sitting on a bridge and placing 2 blocks in front of the other player and jumping up to hit them before they can even react. This is a pretty simple and effective way to damage or even kill your opponents. This is of course just an example, but it's very likely that you will come across a situation like this. You can also get an advantage by building higher than your opponent. Doing this can allow you to jump down on your opponents and easily hit them off of the bridge/tower. Not only will this cancel out your knockback temporarily due to the fall damage tick, but it will also catch your opponent off guard, putting them into a terrible offensive and defensive position. I also want to talk about wall bridging, but I'll do a whole section on this later. Hard to reach fights are probably the least common fights, and I doubt you will run into one of these. Hard to reach fights are basically when another player makes it really hard for you to kill them. It's in the name. This includes skybasing, glitch hiding spots in the wall or under the map, etc. For hiding places under the map, it's best to do one of 2 things. 1, you can completely ignore them and either let them disconnect or get killed by dragons, or 2, you can place water around the island, making it more difficult to fall into the void. It all depends on what they have though. If they have ranged weapons, it's a lost cause. If they only have melee weapons, you can go for it, but it's risky. Then for skybasing, it's a little easier to deal with. You can either let dragons deal with the guy, or you can place water around if the base is above ground. If it's above the void, it's a lost cause. For both of these situations, I would recommend using stealth to your advantage. The skybaser/hider won't know that you are coming for them if they can't see you. Jump boost and invis potions will be your best friends in these situations. I would also recommend using pearls to get into the base in the first place if you see an opening. If there's no opening, or if you fail your first rush, it's a lost cause. Scroll through Twitter and wait for dragons. Remember, if your opponent is stuck in their little base, they can't get your emeralds, meaning you can survive dragons while they can't. Again, if you can't get to them, forget it. Also, if you don't have a bed or the bed destruction countdown is on the scoreboard, forget trying to get to your opponent and get emeralds and dragon buff, otherwise you will die. Okay, so I've talked about strategies for 3 specific types of fights, but now I'll go back into general game plans, mechanics, strategies, etc. In my opinion, wall bridging is a 50-50 strategy. When the bridge first came out, wall bridging strategies started to form in Bedwars, and when trying it at first, it actually worked. But as time went by, players actually started to learn from their mistakes, and instead of being completely bamboozled by it, they have learned to fight back against it. Whenever I try to wall bridge nowadays, I get mixed results. Sometimes my opponent is smart enough to guess what I'm doing, sometimes I am able to trick my opponent. Now if you've ever watched ranked Bedwars, those players have gotten pretty good at wall bridging quickly and with perfection. However, I know that most Bedwars players aren't ranked gods, so I'm going to say this. If you already know Bedwars well and you've already mastered all of their strategies and techniques, go for it. It'll take practice, but if you're willing to put in the effort to perfect the art of wall bridging, I'd say it's worth a shot. But if you are somewhat new to the game and you haven't got your game sense down yet, I'd say it's a waste of time to learn this. Now, I do think defending against wall bridgers is an essential skill. I've learned to stop wall bridgers myself. If I'm in a towering battle with a guy and the guy drops, it's very obvious what their plan is. All I have to do is drop behind my tower and wait for him to come around the corner. Doing this is still dangerous though, because sometimes Bedwars players don't take knockback and you'll just end up in the void yourself. In addition to this, some of the better Bedwars players have learned to fake a wall bridge. They do this by pretending to run around your tower but then suddenly stopping and building back up. All the while you are back at the bottom of your bridge with the opponent now having the high ground. Not fun. At this point, you just have to back off about 15 blocks and build back up to repeat the same process again until there's a winner. Speed is key here. If your opponent is faster at the build up, drop, fake wall bridge, and build back up process, you will probably lose. In short, try your best to predict what your opponent will do when it comes to wall bridging. Now, I've already talked about what you should buy with your diamonds at the beginning of your games, but I didn't say anything about emeralds and diamond use later on. So here are my recommendations. I'm going to start with diamonds. I already talked about how your first few buys should be Prot 1, Minor Fatigue Trap, and maybe Heal Pool. But after this, you want to buy upgrades in this order. Sharpness, Prot 2, Prot 3, and then Prot 4. And then somewhere along there, depending on when you get extra diamonds, you want to buy a second trap and a heal pool if you didn't get one already. Heal pool is nice for when the fight gets to your island and you need to heal quickly, but you don't want to spend gold on golden apples. A second trap is good for emergencies. For example, if a blue guy runs up to your bed and takes the first trap, and then red comes running up to try to break your bed as well, you'll have that second trap to save you from that red player. To be fair, if both teams are attacking you at the same time, you'll probably be dead anyways, but that second trap could be used as a little bit of extra time to either save your bed or to escape. Now, emerald use is completely up to you. Most items that you can buy with emeralds will give you some kind of an advantage on the other players, like pearls, potions, diamond armor, etc. When your bed is broken, I recommend getting a pearl for emergencies and potions so you don't have to risk fighting someone when trying to break your opponent's bed or when trying to run away from an opponent. Unless you know for sure that you'll win the fight, just get in and get out. Otherwise, you are taking a huge risk. This diagram shows exactly what I would recommend for if your bed breaks. 1 emerald equals 1 jump boost, 2 emeralds equals 1 jump boost and 1 bridge egg, 3 emeralds equals 1 invis and 1 jump boost, 4 emeralds equals 1 invis, 1 jump boost and 1 bridge egg, 5 emeralds equals 1 pearl and 1 jump boost, 6 emeralds equals 1 pearl and 1 invis, 7 emeralds equals 1 pearl, 1 invis and 1 jump boost, 8 emeralds equals 1 pearl, 1 invis, 1 jump boost and 1 bridge egg, 9 emeralds equals 1 pearl, 2 invis, and 1 jump boost. 10 emeralds equals 1 pearl, 2 invis, and 2 jump boost. 11 emeralds equals 1 pearl, diamond armor, and 1 jump boost. And lastly, 12 emeralds equals 1 pearl, diamond armor, and 1 invis, or 2 pearls, 1 invis, and 2 jump boost. I recommend the diamond armor if you are comfortable with what you already have and if you are confident in winning a 1v1. I recommend the 2 pearls if you aren't comfortable or confident in winning a 1v1 fight. If you still have your bed, what you spend your emeralds on depends on how many emeralds you get from middle. Here is another quick diagram for what I would recommend. 1 emerald equals 1 jump boost, 2 emeralds equals 1 invis potion, 3 emeralds equals 1 invis and 1 jump boost potion, and lastly 4 emeralds equals 1 invis, 1 jump boost and 1 bridge egg. Beyond this, I would just save your remaining emeralds. All of these recommendations follow my one Bedwars philosophy. If you can't die, you can't lose. About to die, just invis or jump boost out of your current situation and your opponent can't do crap about it. Need a quick and effective escape to an island to buy more resources? Just pearl away and bam, you have 10 seconds of free time to quickly buy everything you need. You pretty much can't die, granted you take the proper precautions and play your cards right. I can't promise that you won't walk into the void by yourself. Gamesense is basically just knowing the game inside and out. This includes knowing its mechanics, memorizing map geography, knowing the best places and really just the best ways to fight other players, knowing what to buy in a variety of situations, etc. But unfortunately, this part is up to you. I taught you most of the basics of Bedwars and what you'll need to know in order to win fights, but in the end, it is up to you to mold these strategies and mechanics into a playstyle that works for you. Yeah, I showed you what to buy at the beginning of your games, but you must learn how to use those items yourself. A great way to build Gamesense is to just keep playing and learning from your mistakes. The more you play, the more you will learn about the game. And the more mistakes you make, the quicker it will be to learn what does and doesn't work. It's all up to you. And that will be it for this video. If you guys found this Bedwars guide useful, please leave a like, and if there's anything you guys would like to add to this, then please leave a comment. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.